the drill here. And again, welcome everybody to this very special session. We've got Andrea Syverson with us. She's a brand and marketing specialist, and I'm going to have her in just a moment share a little bit more about what she does and her organization and such. But we're going to have moments here where I'm going to just raise your hand, or we'll stop and see if there are any questions. This is your opportunity, though, to ask some of those marketing, branding type of questions, and which is very important when you cast vision, to have a good branding perspective to it. So, Andrea, let's why don't you start by introducing yourself? I understand, you know, you're married and you live up in the hills of rural Colorado, surviving somehow off of hot dogs and other things like that. So, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Not quite, but thank you. First of all, it's a delight to meet all of you. Dr. Chromey, thank you for including me in your class today. You're talking and studying one of my favorite topics, brand vision. And I think just in your short introductions, I feel like our conversation is going to be valuable, whether you are a volunteer, which is really a brand ambassador for your children's school, for your church, or you're staffing, you're leading, or you're creating something that doesn't even exist yet, a program, a service. The visioning part is, I think, the best part of the whole branding process. So I'm excited to learn more about your projects and be of any help I can to you in this conversation today. I have had my own branding firm for the last 2 decades. I love what I do. I help companies and ministries, profit, not-profit, nonprofits, in the areas of branding, strategic planning, product development, coming up with the actual products, the services that are offered through the brand, and also the creative exploration and development of that visually and verbally. So it's really, the big umbrella is brand storytelling. And I'm helping companies and ministries tell their story in ways that will help captivate their tribe, bring their audience to them, help them better understand their customers' pain points, and really help customers and potential customers quickly, through strong branding, help them break out of the clutter that's everywhere. So I've worked with companies, Davids and Goliaths. It was really fun to hear that you're reading Malcolm Gladwell. He is a brilliant thinker. And I have worked with Davids and Goliaths. And some of the Goliaths, you'll recognize the names, Ben & Jerry's, Spanx, See's Candies, Hallmark, a bunch of those kinds of brands. But then also in the Christian world, ministries like Compassion International, World Vision, Group Publishing, Zondervan, St. Mary's Press, Oregon Catholic Press. I have a diverse group of clients over the last 2 decades, and I love that. And I love working with the Davids even more, I think, than I have over the years with the Goliaths, because I'm often teaching the Goliaths to act like Davids. Sometimes companies get big and fat and happy and lose their way. And that's been true of companies that are great, like Disney and Starbucks and even Apple and Nike. Almost every big company over their journey loses their way sometimes. They get distracted, they get out-competed, they just lose their way. And so sometimes we have to rebrand, reorganize, recalibrate. So all that to say, I love helping cast vision. I love helping execute vision, and I'm excited to chat with you today about your specific projects and your questions.
Well, you know, let's just take one brand here to start with, and you know, up here in the Great Northwest, you got to talk about Starbucks. Mm-hmm. All right. Starbucks is, and I don't know how many of you know this, but Starbucks started out as a tea company, not a coffee company. Did you know that? The first thing it offered was tea. It wasn't coffee. And I've been to Starbucks #1 down there in the Pikes Market, public market down there in downtown Seattle. And there is no place inside that Starbucks for you to sit down. All you can do is walk in, order your coffee and walk out. There's no place to connect. And later Starbucks, that was part of their vision as it expanded, was to create a space of community, a place where you could gather, have a cup of coffee, a good cup of coffee, and then, connect and do business or whatever, meet friends. But along the line, there's a good example of a brand that lost its vision. They started branding everything from music CDs. You may remember a few years ago, they had music CDs, and they had all sorts of things going on as far as ways to brand use their brand. Andrea, when you think of that, how does that compare to maybe our church world? I mean, a lot of times, Jesus gave us a very simple mission: go into all the world, teach the gospel, preach the gospel, teach them to obey all that I've commanded, baptize. I mean, it's very simple commands. And now we have all of this. Your thoughts?
Great question. I often use Starbucks as a case study because they have done a lot of things right. And I believe one of the best things they got right was fulfilling Howard Schultz's original vision, which he got when he was in Italy on vacation and had a fabulous cup of espresso in the middle of a piazza in Italy. And he sat and he lingered over that cup of espresso and watched people and just relaxed and just said, oh my word, we don't do anything like this at all in America. Really, back when he started, we were a Folgers and a Maxwell House country. You just had coffee in your percolator at home. So maybe all the backstory there. So to answer Dr. Chromey's question, how some of the losing their way and then gaining their direction back, how that connects with the church. It's a bigger topic, but it's actually applicable for every brand I've ever worked on, whether they've been ministries, big companies, little companies, is the idea of simplicity. I think one of the most important things in building a brand is never to lose track of how simplification is the key to success. When we think about Starbucks, when you think about Nike, Apple, Ben & Jerry's, so many companies, Disney, you get a quick picture visually in your mind. You get a quick emotion when I say those words. You think one thing when I say Ben & Jerry's, it's a different emotion than when I say Haagen-Dazs, a different emotion than when I say Dryers. I don't know if you have Dryers or Briars on your coasts, but companies work really, really hard to make that emotional, visual, and verbal connection happen quickly. And they do it through simplicity. They do it by culling away all the clutter of emotions and the clutter of messages and the clutter of too much, so that you have one image, one thought, one idea that comes to mind when you hear these brand names. So churches have gotten overly complicated. And I don't know each of your own spiritual journeys or in your present positions, the churches you're working and leading, but I can almost guarantee that in every case, you could think of one thing off the top of your head that's overly complicated, either about your Sunday worship service, your small groups, your volunteer programs, your children's programs, marrying people, whatever. You can go, wow, we can make this simpler. We can make this easier. And why do we even care about simplicity? Well, we care about simplicity because we care about the people we're serving, kind of our tribe. I like to think of customers not as target audiences or customer segments. That sounds too clinical. I like to think of our customers, in your case, your congregation members perhaps, as friends. Would you put your friend through this experience? Would you put your friend through these hoops? No, you probably wouldn't in a lot of cases. So first, I like thinking about how we really need to personalize as we think about who our customers are. Are we treating them as friends? Because, you know, friends cut through a lot of bells and whistles for people. They do a lot of things that make life easier. And the brands that make their customers' lives easier are the brands that win. Just look at what happened with COVID. Oh my gosh. I mean, overnight, our worlds changed. Overnight, they got more complicated in some ways and simplified in other ways. But the brands that have won or are winning or are at least trying their hardest are the ones that have come through this pandemic process, tried to listen to their customers, what are their needs, what are their new pain points, and have adapted and made their customers' lives easier. Just think of your favorite restaurant, and the minute they closed, you were disappointed. The minute they opened and did takeout and made your life easier and went through all the precautions and thought through everything, answer. You were so excited to reconnect with them. They put you first. They thought of you as a friend. They decluttered their whole process, and they wanted your loyalty, and they earned it. So, sorry, long answer to simplification is one of the best things you can do as you're building your vision. So exciting to keep adding onto good things, onto a vision. But oftentimes in my work with companies, I am having them peel things back. Let's get to the heart of the matter. Let's make sure we do one thing really, really well. One thing that's going to be memorable. One thing that's going to be shareable. One thing that you're going to really be known for. Dr. Chromey and I were talking as you were on your break when he built his business, MANNA Solutions, how after he casted his vision and thought through all the details, then to focus, what are the few things that I can do really well in a way that will be memorable, shareable. We all have many gifts and talents, thank you, Lord, but we have to narrow our scope for us to be able to broadcast a bigger story.
Yeah, those are great thoughts. And, you know, when I think about how you mentioned several businesses in this COVID moment changing, it's because they do have a great relational aspect with they don't see us as customers, more as we're partners in this thing. You know, we are friends. And, you know, also they tend to operate more fast. They can make decisions quicker. They can be pretty big, but they can make the decisions quick. They're more fluid. They're more flexible. You know, all those are kind of key. And it's significant and important because as we cast vision, whether we're working, some of us here are in churches where we've already got purpose statements and mission statements, and we don't have to go back to the drawing board and redo all that. That's not what I'm hearing from you. What we have to do is go back and just basically, how do we make this simple? And how do we make this reproducible? So how about I open it up here see if there are any questions in the gallery here. Anybody? Yeah, Vance, I see a hand, and then we'll go to Drew. Vance first.
Yeah, thanks. So you talked about simplifying, and I think that's a just beautiful way of looking at things. And one of the things that I see in churches a lot is as a church grows, it grows in complexity. It grows just naturally. It drifts towards the complex. But the things that we're doing, it's easy to connect them with God, and it becomes not just a program. This is how we're doing our ministry for God. And so as a church tries to simplify and cut back, there's a great level of pain connected to cutting off the fat. How do you help build the value of the simplification that overwhelms what we see as the value of the thing that we've added that brings value? How do we value simple when we really in churches a lot of times we value the complex because of all these programs and processes and hoops because they're connected to God?
Mm-hmm. Excellent question. Thanks, Vance. Here's my top of mind thought on that. first of all, change is hard. So when you're taking something away, people, get their shackles up. What we have to do, and that's why casting a vision is so important, is to sometimes reframe what it is you're taking away. Let's just say your vision statement or your vision is to build meaningful relationships between each other and God. And I think every church could say that. I'm just trying to find something we can all circle around. But all of a sudden now you're going to take away a program that is very niche oriented. I don't know if you want to toss one out that you're considering or recently had to let go of. No.
Well, we can come up with one. Let's see. Midweek services. How about that? That's a lot. That is one that a lot of churches are grappling with right now.
Okay. So let's say for all sorts of reasons, we have to stop. We're going to simplify, not have midweek. So yes, that's something, and I write about this in my branding book, and I call it I encourage companies to have garage sales, throw away things that are not working. And think about if you've ever had a garage sale, they're a lot of work, or even just taking things to Goodwill. You got to clean the closets, you have to make decisions. This doesn't work for me. I haven't worn this in 5 years. I never liked this to start with. I paid too much money. It still doesn't fit, whatever. You see, there's all sorts of decisions. And then there's the actual work of boxing it all up and either taking it to Goodwill or having a garage sale. But, so there's that. When you're done, you have breathing room. You are so excited that you can move in your closet again. You can open those drawers and see what you actually do have to wear. Or you can work in a more peaceful way in your office if you've just decluttered. Same with this. If you had to get rid of midweek services, you're not getting rid of your vision, which is connecting people, building strong relationships. The midweek service was just one way to fulfill that vision. What your role as a leader is to take the congregation back to the vision and say, we have done it this way for quite a while, and we know that there's a lot of good to midweek services. We know that there's also a lot of work. And now, because of whatever reason, we are going to try something new. And here's how we're just taking away the physical meeting of the midweek service. But midweek connections are vitally important to us. We love seeing people on Wednesday nights. We love family pizza night. We love all these things about midweek. But what we want to do is to have that done differently and have you, the parishioners, you, the congregation members, do your own midweek. Do it in your own home. Call up a neighbor, have them join you for dinner. Get a takeout pizza. Invite 2 other people over. We want you to continue fulfilling the vision of building and creating and deepening relationships, but we want to spur your creativity on and maybe it's a midweek phone call. Maybe it's a midweek. We want you to reach out somewhere between Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday to 3 different people each week. I'm just top of mind. What I'm trying to say is 1, change is hard. 2, when you get rid of something, it's helpful if you replace it with something that supports your vision. So you're still caring about relationships, you're still caring about connections, but you can't, for whatever reason, budgetary, COVID, whatever, we can't come together midweek, but we don't want to lose the value of that. So I can almost guarantee you 3 months from now, you're going to get so much great feedback about different things people did midweek and sharing those and learning about what people did that 6 months down the road, you may not even bring back the original midweek service because people are you're going to empower them to say midweek was not about this 6 to 7 p.m. Wednesday night service. This was really about building relationships, touching base midweek, encouraging, connecting, and none of that's going to go away. You're going to find new and different ways to do it. Yeah. Does that help?
Yeah, I think you're hitting on something here, though, and that is the idea of change, because change is what changes us and forces us. If we had not had this COVID moment, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And I think it's interesting. There are certain things that happen to us that force us, and change is never, it is always hard. In fact, let's just try something here. You all take your hands like this and fold your hands. Just fold your hands. All right. So it's nice and comfortable, and look down at your hands, and you probably have one thumb on top of another, right? Okay. All right. I have the right thumb. So now take your hands apart and put the opposite thumb on top. That's change. That's how it feels. And how does it feel? Let me just, how does it feel to you guys? Strange?
Wrong. I did it wrong.
Yeah. Odd. Not right. I mean, we could think of a lot of things it feels like, but here's the thing. The longer you hold your hands like this, the more comfortable you become. And that's the same way with change. Time is what helps us change. Yeah. So, Drew, you want to jump in. What was your question?
Hold on, let me write down your thing. So honestly, it kind of is more of the same question with Vance, but we are actually looking at getting rid of Sunday school, at least for my ministry. The difference between, and it may not be a difference, I'm not sure, and you're the professional. My obstacle isn't the congregation. My obstacle is my direct supervisor. So I'm trying to figure out how to bridge, and I even wrote about this, I think, in my last paper, how to bridge the gap of my supervisor specifically hired me to create a vision for the youth ministry, and then he kind of fights against it. So for Sunday school, he's saying it's super successful, that it's great, it's the best thing that has happened in youth ministry. We get 15 students. The majority of them are either serving in the church or already attending, which is what we're trying to push anyway. We're not, like what you said, I'm not calling it killing Sunday school. We're replacing it with, at least with the Carapal's Growing Young book, the closer you get them to that Sunday service, the less likely they are to leave the faith. So how do you cast that vision that you feel like God has given you, that you've been called to do, not that you're paid to do as well? That's part of the job, is create a vision for youth ministry, but then your supervisor is kind of that obstacle, not really the congregation.
Mm-hmm. That's a tough problem, and not unusual in that a lot of my work is coming alongside of leaders and helping collaborate on a new vision or recalibrate an existing vision. And I can tell you, I think there's 8 or 9 of us, 10 of us today. If you were my client and we were all around a table together in any given project I've worked on, there's been at least a third that haven't been on board for whatever reason. It wasn't their idea. They thought things were going hunky-dory. They are intimidated by change for whatever reason. So part of a leader's job is, and it's probably the hardest part, is really getting folks to align with you. And it's helping them understand, Drew, your why, W-H-Y. And perhaps you've seen Simon Sinek's work on why. Simon Sinek, S-E-N-E-C-K. It's written quite a bit. There's some great TED Talks on it, but it's talking about what is your why, and helping people, and you kind of do it several times, like 5 times, keep trying to unpack why it is, Drew, you want to change the Sunday school experience. And really having these strategic conversations so that they're you slowly build buy-in. Doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen overnight. But it's so important that you're helping people understand it's not because it's Drew's idea. It's not because your supervisor hasn't been doing it well all these years. It's a deeper why. And you have good reasons why you want to do something. So that's where this brand storytelling, it has all of these components that are emotional, psychological, as well as what it is you're actually sharing of the story that is going out of your organization. There's a lot of brand work that happens internally. And until all the stakeholders are on the same page internally, you're going to get really mixed messages externally. And that's a recipe for brand disaster. So we have a lot of brand work we do internally through strategic conversations, collaborations, really helping everyone get on that same page. If I could take just a minute, I do an exercise with my clients, and I believe I sent Dr. Chromey the article about this, and it's very easy to do. It uses a little product, a sticky note. And one of the things I like to do when I first get brought into a client is to give everyone around the table, and it's usually the leaders of the organization, a sticky note, and ask them why their business exists. In your case, why does your ministry exist? Why does your church exist? Why does your small group exist? Why does your nonprofit exist? And then on another sticky note, I asked them, what 3 words would you use to describe your organization or your church or your group? I can tell you in 20 plus years, I've never had a client, including those big Goliaths, all with the same information on the sticky note. These were big companies, small companies, ministries, you name it. And until we do the important work of gathering together and solidifying our thinking as a team, then what we have are people going out in all sorts of ways, leading the marketing team, leading the ministry team, leading the customer care team, leading the production team, leading the worship, all with a slightly different idea of what the purpose was. So this work that you're talking about doing, Drew, it's going to take some time. It's going to take patience. It's going to take the Holy Spirit. But to get buy-in together is absolutely of utmost importance when it comes to branding and casting a vision.
If I hear what you're saying correctly, Andrea, it's about having a story that's compelling enough that attracts, right? You know, when you were talking about what are your 3 things, the 3 things that make MANNA Educational Services International distinctive is we exist for inspiration, insight, and ideas. Those are the 3 things that popped, and that's who we are. And you're right. I've lost sight of that in the last couple of years. I've kind of drifted from that to do other things. And I need to get back to basics with that. So we're getting close to the end here of our conversation. Let's just for a moment talk about mission statements and purpose statements and vision again. Are there some differences? Is there a difference between a mission statement and a purpose and a vision? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
There's a lot, and perhaps you've done deep dives in your own classwork on this. I am a proponent of all of those, but what I'm a bigger proponent of is the strategic conversations that go on to create those. Those are where you are going to learn where you have some pain points internally. You're going to learn where some people are perhaps not aligned, maybe are not purposely sometimes even, but taking their take. They're taking things off track just a little bit. A great brand, a great vision can't afford to have multi pulls in many different directions. It's a disaster. And so it's the strategic conversations internally around those core topics: the vision, the mission, the purpose, the values. I would again encourage you, as you prepare to participate in those conversations around your own organizational tables, to keep that simple. Simplicity. It's why Apple is as good as Apple is. It's why Google is as good as Google is. Simple. Go and you can look at some of their mission statements. They're all under the about bars of these various company websites, and you'll see how simple they are. And because that gives them room for growth, and it gives them room to put their own imprint on what they want to do. So Dr. Chromey may talk about inspiring a company. Apple talks about inspiring, and I know Nike talks about inspiring, but they're inspiring in different ways. And so it's so important to have those strategic conversations around the table, let everyone get their pros and cons and something I call FUDs, fears, uncertainties, and doubts, FUD, FUDs, out, because you want those things out on the table before you're investing in all the expense and labor and emotional energy of storytelling. And I actively pull those out of people in meetings. I want to know. I want you to be devil's advocate. I want you to tell me why this isn't going to work. I want you to tell me what is tripping you up, because until everyone around that table is wholeheartedly bought into your vision, the company's vision, then you're not bringing your A++ game internally together so that then you can go take on your competitors and everything else externally.
Do you think part of the problem is that most of us we're not really visionary leaders? Because, if you have the vision, like myself, I started a organization from scratch, I'm the vision behind it. But a lot of us, we inherit the vision of others. We come into churches, we come into organizations, slingshot, whatever it is, we inherit that particular vision. And now we're being asked to be visionary, but it's hard because, like Drew, what if our vision's a little bit different from what, the organization, and a lot of times you don't work these out in the interview process, do you? Yeah.
No, but you are a salesperson. So I think all branding is salesmanship, and I mean that in a good way, convincing people, trying to help them understand your vision. That's your job as the visionary leader, to express yourself, to help really communicate that fully and well, and to bring people on board. I once worked with a client, and the CFO was so against branding, thought it was fluff, didn't see the need for it. I just went on and on. A great guy. We had a good relationship, but he was just, no, it wasn't going to happen under his watch. Well, when it did, he became one of my biggest advocates. And he's like, Andrea, the light went off. He saw the importance of that kind of work and how it aligned the executive leadership team, and then how it gave them a compelling story to take out, to share externally.
Yeah, thank you, Andrea. This has been very helpful. I know it's been helpful to me as far as what I'm doing, and we're down to the end. It's amazing, we're down to the end, but I'd like to have Andrea just give 2 more minutes. I want to give you 2 more minutes, Andrea. And what I'd like you to do is, these students are all doing a social media project. I've shared with you what it's about. They have to start from scratch and get some followers and build a vision of some sort and cast it. That's what the whole social media assignment's about. In 2 minutes, what would you say to them to just inspire them or give them an idea to be successful in this class? Because I want to give them all A's. I can't guarantee that, but I'd love to give them all A's on this one.
Well, first of all, it's been delightful, and this time has flown. I want to just mention, this isn't a plug for you to buy my book. I just want you to know, if you need help with those brand conversations, I wrote about the practices I use with my clients here, called Brand About. It's fun, it's easy reading, it's not textbooky, and it's all things you could take into your church's activities to do. And they're like proven. So brand about, it's like a walkabout. It's a long story. Anyway, gosh, to inspire you, I think just from our short time together, I know you're all self-motivated. I know you're all tapped into the Holy Spirit, which is the best inspirer there could possibly be. Whether this is for a project or if you're actually launching it, I just want you to do something that you really believe in. I have turned down all sorts of work for clients and businesses that aren't my thing. I just can't get excited about branding certain things. It's just not me. And so I have found that your personal values, your personal passions really matter in if you're able to communicate and broadcast your vision authentically. So I think if you're all doing work related to your degree and in church-related activities, you're bringing your heart and soul. And what's been exciting for me to see is how much the business world is talking about things that the religious world always talked about, like soul and passion and all of that. So I think that's probably one of the most important things, is to believe in what you're doing yourself. And then to take the time. The vision casting is the most exciting time, and to think bigger than you could possibly think. I know, sitting in a piazza in Italy, Howard Schultz had no idea what he would have built at all. He just went back to that Seattle coffee company and said, hey, I have an idea. We should create a third space. People should be able to sit down with their coffee and chat with their friends, their neighbors, their kids, their college classmates, their coworkers. It started like that. And look how it's bloomed. I could do all sorts of great, I'm not even a coffee drinker, but they have done so many things well from a brand storytelling, product creation perspective. So think about the vision that you have now, today, Friday, and think how you could turn up that dial like 10 times. Take yourself forward, jump forward and say, wow, it's 2030. What does this look like now?
Yeah.
And have that be your motivator.
Yeah, thank you, Andrea. Great thoughts there. If the students wanted to ask you a particular question, would you mind taking a question from them in an email? If I gave them your email address, would that be a problem?
No problem. I think I've given you my contact
Yeah.
information. And yes, and sometimes if it's easier just to chat by phone, let me know how to reach you by phone. Okay. I tend to hate to type, so I'd rather maybe just chat. And if it's easier, sometimes it's just
I got to tell you, guys and gals, that's an invitation right there that you're not going to get in a lot of classes, because Andrea she really knows what she's doing and such. And I just want to say again, thank you, Andrea, for being a part of this, and also for you staying a little bit over time. But let me tell you, next week we have Andy Hansen from Christ in Youth, the president of Christ in Youth Conference. He's going to be joining us and talking about how he came into an organization that was kind of, stagnant at that point, and he took it to the next level and really made Christ in Youth what many of the students in this class know Christ in Youth to be today. And he's going to be talking about that next week in our final, can you believe it, our final Zoom, because we won't have a Zoom on the final week. You got to do that capstone stuff anyway. But we're down. We're more than halfway through the class. Anyway, thank you very much, Andrea. It's been a pleasure.
I just want to say I wish you all well, and God bless you, and the church needs you. We didn't even get in to talk about church, but the church needs you. Yeah. So
yes, buy Andrea's book on Catholic, her Catholic story and such. It's a riveting read.
Long story.
Yeah. Thank you. God bless you guys. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.